Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very anticlimactic reading wrap up for the month of November because I really didn't read a lot and I've been in a bit of a slump, I feel like for months now, and I've just sort of been like forcing myself to read. I don't know, reading for me lately, it's felt more like a chore, more like something that I kind of have to encourage myself to do rather than something that I can't go without. I remember a few years ago, or even last year, it felt so weird to not read, at least for 10 minutes every day. And lately, I've just been feeling like I have to force myself to make the time to read. So I've been having some weird feelings about it because I want to try to make it more of a habit again instead of, I don't know what it is right now. I think I'm just in a slump. I have no idea. I do have videos on how to get over reading slumps. I have a video that you guys helped me with about how I asked you how you got over reading slumps, and I talk about that in the video. I feel like maybe I need to watch that video and reinvigorate my love for reading because you guys always tell me how much my videos help you fall in love with reading, and I love that. That's the whole point of my channel, but for me lately, I've just been having kind of a hard time making it a habit. It's funny though because I have other things in my daily life that I try to make a habit that I do every day. Like I love stretching and I love working out and I love going on walks and I love like making myself healthy meals and working on some artwork every day, doing a little bit of writing every day, working on Etsy stuff, or just doing my general work every day. Because I'm freelance and I am kind of my own boss, I guess, I have to encourage myself to do certain things every day, and I'm very self-motivated and self-disciplined, so I just feel like I need to pull that reading discipline back out of me. So anyway, sorry for the ramble. Without further babbling on, I'm just going to tell you guys what I read in November. So apparently the first book that I finished in November, I didn't realize this, I thought I finished it in October, but I finished it on November 2nd, and that is Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I keep mentioning this book in my videos because, well, number one, I loved it. Number two, I keep updating you guys about it, but I think I mentioned it in my last wrap-up, thinking that I finished it in October. I don't know what, I'm kind of confused. I confused myself. But apparently I finished this in November. I just adored it. It's amazing, and I think last night Emma, because I was buddy reading this with Emma, I think last night Emma finished it and she gave it 5 stars, and I gave it 5 stars. So incredible. She also gifted me the second book in the series for my birthday, and I can't wait to start reading that as well. So love Game of Thrones, amazing. I did listen to an audiobook, and that is Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris. That was my first of David Sedaris's, and I originally picked that book up because it was on the Rory Gilmore reading list, and I really want to read as many Rory Gilmore books as I can, or the ones that at least interest me, and that one did interest me because I heard quite good things about David Sedaris' writing, and so I listened to the audiobook, which was actually narrated by David Sedaris, and you guys know I talk about it all the time. I love when audiobooks are narrated by the author because I just think they're fantastic productions and wonderful ways to take in a story if you're not physically reading it. I liked it. I didn't love it. It's a collection of stories or anecdotes or stories in David Sedaris' life that he shares with the reader. A lot of them have some humor to them, and so some of the stories I thought were really funny. Other ones, they kind of didn't affect me really in any way, unfortunately. I feel like that's kind of personal preference though, especially with nonfiction, and every person kind of, I guess, thinks different things are funny, unless they're a universal thing that everyone thinks is funny. Anyway, I really liked it. I loved the fact that it was narrated by David Sedaris. I thought he did a great job with the narration, and I would be interested in maybe listening to more of his audiobooks, so I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was good, just not something that I think I would reread. Then the next book, I listened to another audiobook, and that is Heaven by Meiko Kawakami. I recently listened to Breasts and Eggs by her as well, and I fell in love with that one, and I really wanted to read Heaven because I heard amazing things about Heaven as well, and it was so impactful. I loved it. I thought that it was just such an incredibly intimate story, and that's what I love so much about her writing, is I feel like all of her work is very intimate and honest and tells a a very truthful story, which whenever I say that, I always think of Hemingway, when Hemingway would talk about how all he wants to do is write the truth. Anyway, so Heaven is a coming-of-age story about these two friends who are severely bullied. They both come together in their mutual, I guess, sadness over the fact that they are bullied, and it's really about their friendship and how they deal with that, and the bond that they form together, and their lives with the other kids or young adults in their school and in their lives, and how they really change each other's lives, and how they can sort of be there for one another when it feels like no one else is. And it's just such a beautiful, intimate story about growing up and bullying and finding friendship, and I guess the importance of friendship and the importance of being there for someone and the bonds that you can create with people, especially at a young age. What I loved about it was, I guess, how I related to the story in some ways, because I feel like most kids were bullied in school when they were younger. I was definitely bullied when I was younger, especially for my curly hair, because when I was younger, I didn't really know what to do with my hair. I didn't really know how to take care of it and the hairstyles, and it was just kind of this sore point for me. And I also had glasses, and it was just, I was quite easy to pick on. I was also always very petite, and so yes, I would mainly get picked on for my hair. But now I love my hair, and it's so funny to see how different my perspective has changed over the years. And one of the aspects of the story is that one of the main characters has a lazy eye, and how he hates his lazy eye, and how that's his main source of why he's bullied, and his view on his eye, and also the other young girl that he becomes friends with that's also bullied, tells him that his eye is him. It's what she loves about him. And I thought that was so beautiful, because I feel like we are so quick to change the things that people point out or that we dislike about ourselves. And I think when you can see other people in your life that love you and care about you point out those things as the things that they love about you, and the things that is what makes you you, is just one of the most heartwarming and beautiful human interactions and human emotions and ways to show someone that you love them. It's just so beautiful, and it made me so emotional. And I remember growing up, people would always tell me how much they loved my hair, and how, I would always take it in and say, oh, thank you, but I never agreed, and I never liked my hair, even though people told me that they did. And I would straighten my hair all the time, and now that I've accepted my curly hair and I love my hair, it's so funny how that perspective can change. And anyway, so this main character goes through, does he want to fix his eye because he's able to get surgery to make his eye a little bit better and not lazy anymore. And so it's kind of this part of, what should he do? What does he want to do? What is he comfortable with? He even talks about it with his mom or his stepmom. And it's just such a beautiful story, because I just related to so much of it in a way that I really wasn't expecting. And Meiko Kawakami's writing is incredibly beautiful. I could just go on and on about it. As you can tell, I have rambled on for quite a while about this book. I wasn't expected to talk about it as much. But I just think it's so great when you can read a story that maybe you don't think you can relate to too much, and you can really see so much of yourself in the character through a different perspective, through a different lens, and I thought that it was wonderful. So Meiko Kawakami is blowing me out of the water with her books, with Breasts and Eggs and now Heaven, and I can't wait to read more of her books. I forgot what her other book is called. I can put a picture of it up, but I definitely want to read that one or listen to that one, and I definitely think I should pick up some physical copies. I really like the UK covers. You guys, if you know me, I always prefer UK covers over US covers. It's very rare if I prefer the US cover, but anyway, so yeah, I might have to pick up some physical copies of those, because I have just listened to them on audiobook, but I cannot recommend them enough. Then the next book that I finished, I actually finished it last night, and that is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This book blew me away. Oh my gosh. It's just one of those books that I feel like, and I think everybody can agree, it's one of those books that you really live by. And what Marcus Aurelius talks about how he describes how we should live and how we should behave, and I guess his advice on just life in general and how to be, how to act, how to think. He's not telling you what to do. He is in a way, but he's kind of just telling you, I guess he's giving you his advice and he's giving you his perspective. And it never really felt like he was preaching at me, like this is, like you need to do this, this is what you need to do. But it also kind of felt like it was him, I guess, giving you advice, saying, don't look at it this way, or if this happens, maybe look at it in this light. It was a very gentle nudging of, of maybe look at life this way, or maybe perceive things in a new light, or change your perspective in a way. I thought that it was brilliant. I could recite this whole book. Well, I can't, not from memory, but I could just quote this whole book because I was thinking about sharing some of my favorite quotes with you guys, and I was thinking, I can't pick favorites. Like, I could recite the whole thing because the whole thing is a favorite. I thought it was brilliant. I did write down a few of them for my Goodreads, so I thought that I would just read which ones I wrote for my Goodreads review, because with certain books, especially like books of nonfiction or books of philosophy or poetry, I find it so hard to talk about it in a way, and I feel like the best way to talk about books that you have a hard time talking about is to just share your favorite quotes, because the quotes and the book will speak for itself. So that's what I thought that I would do. Okay, so I'm gonna read my Goodreads review, which is basically 5 quotes. So the first quote is, "Love only what falls your way and is fated to you. What could suit you more than that?" Oh, beautiful. I'm like, do I comment on these? I feel like I have nothing to say. They're just so beautiful, so I'm just gonna read them. "Even if you were destined to live 3,000 years or 10 times that long, nevertheless remember that no one loses any life other than the one he lives, or lives any life other than the one he loses. No one can lose either the past or the future. How could anyone be deprived of what he does not possess? It is only the present moment of which either stands to be deprived. And if indeed this is all he has, he cannot lose what he does not have." Oh my gosh, I think that for me, I am kind of prone to thinking about the future, and I'm always like one step ahead, like what do I want to accomplish, what do I want to achieve, what goals do I have to set in front of myself. And I think sometimes I have to remind myself to be present, live in the present moment, and just enjoy where you are. I'm definitely the kind of person where I look forward to things. I love to be able to have things to look forward to. And again, I feel like it's nice to remind yourself to enjoy the present, live in the present, and be happy wherever you are in your life, because that's the only thing that you do have. Which I just think he wrote it and said it so beautifully. Then the next one is, "Men seek retreats for themselves, in the country, by the sea, in the hills, and you yourself are particularly prone to this yearning. But all this is quite unphilosophic when it is open to you, at any time you want, to retreat into yourself. No retreat offers someone more quiet and relaxation than that into his own mind, especially if he can dip into thoughts there which put him at immediate and complete ease. And by ease, I simply mean a well-ordered life." Okay, again, I feel like I related to that so much, because I love, I guess, retreating into nature and finding relaxation in the places and the settings and, I guess, my environment. But I think the most important in what he is saying, and I completely agree, is there is no better, I guess, solitude or peace than in yourself. And I think finding those things that make you feel that way, like for me, reading, I know I'm talking about how I've been in such a slump, but reading and creating art and writing and going on walks and doing things that put me into that mindset, it's so beautiful to be able to find those things that really makes you feel like you can retreat into your own body. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that you really have, and Marcus Aurelius even says this in book 12, that the only thing that you really possess is your mind. I think he talks about breath and oh, what was it? I think it's The Body and Breath. I literally just read it last night. I didn't write it down. But he talks about how the only three things that you possess is, I think, the body, the breath, I might be wrong, and your mind. But the only one thing that you truly have control over, that you truly possess, is your mind. Anyway, I might be butchering that. I literally have the book right here. I could just look it up. But I loved that so much, and I think it's so true. It's so true because no matter where you are, no matter who you're with, no matter the circumstances, you are in control of your mind and how you feel and how you think to a point. Because I feel like with dealing with anxiety throughout my life, I have always had to remind myself that I'm in control of how I feel. And even though my anxiety feels like sometimes I can't control it, I can look at a situation and say, okay, I acknowledge that it's making me anxious. I acknowledge that it's making me feel this way, but I'm going to choose to maybe look at it in a different way, or to try and change my perspective about whatever is making me anxious. And I just loved how he put that, the retreat into your mind. And that's, I think, what I love about meditations, is that it's really a book to live by, and it's really a book that can change your life in a way, because even though fictional stories can have life-changing effects on you, when you have a book of philosophy or book of quotes or book of poetry that you can kind of implement into your life, I just think it's really quite beautiful how words, another person's experiences can affect your life in a way. Okay, I have more quotes to share. The next one, second to last, is, "So discard all else and secure these few things only. Remind yourself, too, that each of us lives only in the present moment, a mere fragment of time. The rest is life past or uncertain future. Sure, life is a small thing, and the small cranny of the earth in which we live it. Small, too, even the longest fame thereafter, which is itself subject to a succession of little men who will quickly die, and have no knowledge even of themselves, let alone of those long dead." How I perceive that is how he's trying to say that all we have is the present moment, and that even though we can try to leave a legacy behind, saying, small to even the longest fame thereafter, eventually people are going to forget someone. I mean, well, he says that, but then in a way, is that completely true? Because he lived so many years ago, and yet we are still reading his words. So depending, I guess, on the fame, on the legacy, I think it's so beautiful that you can have someone still be alive in a way, have their words be alive, have their legacy be alive, so many years after they're gone. So yes, I don't know about that one. Now I'm changing my perspective on that one. But I do still think it's so beautiful about, again, living in the present moment. And then the last one I have is, "What a tiny part of the boundless abyss of time has been allotted to each of us, and this is soon vanished into eternity. What a tiny part of the universal substance and the universal soul, how tiny in the whole earth the mere clod on which we creep. Reflecting on all this, think nothing important other than active pursuit where your own nature leads, and passive acceptance of what universal nature brings." So again, I feel like he's giving us advice without saying this is how it should be, this is how you should live. He's just, I guess, telling you his own thoughts on life, I guess, and sort of helping you in a way, kind of like being a friend. And I just think his writing is so impactful, so beautiful, and this is definitely a book that I will be returning to many, many times. I would love to also read different translations, because last night I was looking up different quotes, and I saw a few different quotes from different translators, and it was interesting to see how one translator would phrase something and how another translator would phrase the same thing. And it was obviously similar, but it kind of had different, I guess, emotional reactions from me. So yeah, I would be interested in maybe reading some different versions of meditations. But I thought it was amazing. Cannot recommend it enough. It is just beautiful, fantastic book to live by and to, I guess, read when you need a little encouragement in life in general. So I thought that it was great. And then the last book is the one that I'm currently reading. I'm listening to it and physically reading it, and that is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. This is a gorgeous edition that is also illustrated by Chris Riddell. I was showing you guys this in my last reading vlog. It is just such an absolutely beautiful book, beautiful edition. I love Chris Riddell's illustrations and Neil Gaiman's writing, and I am just loving every second of this. I'm also listening to the audiobook that is narrated by Neil Gaiman. I love Neil Gaiman's narrations. I love his audiobooks. He just does such an incredible job making his stories come to life, because I think what's so beautiful about when an author reads their own stories is that they can express them in the way that they intended them to be read, intended them to be expressed, give the characters the voices that they imagine. Because the main character, Richard, has a Scottish accent, and it's so wonderful to hear Neil Gaiman, I guess, speak in his Scottish accent that he thinks how Richard would sound. So I feel like it really brings a lot of life to the story. And this is about a world with parallel Londons. We have London below and London above. London above is the everyday London. It is the world's London. And then London below is this more fantastical version of London. We are following Richard and this young girl named Dor, and how Dor's family was brutally murdered, and we're trying to figure out why they were murdered. We're looking at it through the lens of Richard, and so Dor obviously knows a little bit more than Richard does, obviously, more than we do, and so we are trying to figure it out through Richard. And we're also meeting a whole cast of characters that are quite interesting and imaginative, and in a way it's reminding me of a fantastical Charles Dickens book, especially set in London. I just am enjoying it so much, and again, the illustrations are just absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite things is when Chris Riddell puts characters on the edges of the pages in the margins. I think it's such beautiful formatting, and it's such a great way to create a narrative image but also have the text and not take up space, and I just think it's really smart. So I will show you a little closer up. It's just so beautifully done, and his line work, this is all graphite, and you guys know obviously from my author portraits, I love graphite drawing, and it's one of my favorite mediums. His work is just so incredibly beautiful, and it's really bringing the whole story to life. That's what I love about illustrations, and that's why I love being an illustrator myself, is we can have words on the page, but then you can really bring them to life with narrative images, which is obviously the whole point of illustration. And something that I am such an advocate for is illustrations in books for adults. I love children's illustrations. I always wanted to be a children's illustrator, and I would love to be that's the thing. I would love to be an illustrator for all people, for all ages, and I love when there are illustrations for adults, so that's my whole point. Loving this book so much. Can't wait to keep reading it. Can't wait to finish it. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I would love, love, love to know what books you read in November, and if you have read any of the books that I mentioned, what you think about them. I also have a non-bookish question, because if you watched my recent reading vlog, I kind of introduced this idea of asking you guys a bookish question and a non-bookish question that we can communicate and talk in the comments and just be more of a community, which is what I love so much about my channel. I love talking to you guys. The bookish one is what book do you always have to read every December, if there is one? Or what holiday book are you looking forward to reading? Okay, so that's like a two-parter. If there's a holiday book that you read every year, what book is it? If not, what book do you want to read in December? Then the non-bookish question is there a particular movie that you always like to watch in December? Yeah, for me, one that I always look forward to, I have so many. I love holiday movies. We just watched The Holiday last night, my family. We love that movie so much, so we love The Holiday, Love Actually, The Santa Clauses, The Polar Express has always been an all-time favorite for me. It's also one of my favorite books. Anyway, let me know a book and a movie that you love for the holiday season? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you soon in another video. Happy reading!